Next, I would like to introduce Jeff Lichtman, who's the International Director of Yachad and Dean of IVDU, and Caryn's boss.
Caryn's boss? No. Nobody was Caryn's boss. Kadosh Baruch Hu, maybe, nobody else. When Rabbi Kellerman was just speaking beautifully, so I'm reminded of the fact that there were many times years ago where Caryn and I would go out on the road and we would speak to audiences. It was a time when people knew, communities knew less about individuals with special needs, less about the importance of inclusion, the value of inclusion to everyone, that Caryn articulated so beautifully, not just in her words, but in her persona. But what I'm most reminded of is the fact that when we would go to speak, she would always speak first, and as was appropriate, and of course, as Rabbi Kelly, she spoke far better than I did, with far less preparation. Lester mentioned the way that Avi spoke about Caryn very beautifully, and he really described it, I think, very well. Although I would argue with one thing. On the surface, he was right that Caryn was an ambassador for all people with special needs, for all people with disabilities. There's no question that Caryn's life was a life where she broke down barriers. And it wasn't by getting up on any soapboxes. It was, again, really just through who she was, through her interaction with people. How could you not love Caryn? And by extension, how could you not love all people? So I want to suggest to you, frankly, that while she was an ambassador for individuals with special needs, really, she was an ambassador for people, for human beings, for all of us and for all human beings. And those people who had the zchut, the privilege of having interacted with her, and who took advantage of that, well, their lives were made better. So, we live in a time where a lot of talk of walls and building walls. Caryn tore down walls. And there were many walls. As a society, the American community, the world community, and really, to be honest, no less the Jewish community, has over time needlessly created obstacles and barriers and walls to everybody's participation. Caryn said no, but she didn't get up the way that I'm doing in a loud voice saying no. She again simply shed light. She shed light on that which was most important in life, on the interactions that we have with each other and can have with each other. From the beginning of time, human beings have always had difficulty getting along with each other. And we, most of all, the Jewish family, on the one hand, are the best family, and we love each other, and especially when there are bad times and harder times, we get together and support each other like nobody else. And on the other hand, when it's not hard times, even if it is hard times, we fight like nobody else. Caryn didn't like fighting. She genuinely loved people. She exuded that feeling, and you couldn't help but be around her and interact with her and be reminded of the most important lessons in life, of what's important in life, tolerance for one another. We're about to read in this coming week's Parsha Nitzavim. Kadosh Baruch Hu talks about, the Parsha talks about return. So when Caryn worked in our office, reminded of many things that were then. Like I didn't wear glasses then. So the Parsha tells us repeatedly that after the bracha and the klala, after the blessing and the curse that HaKadosh Baruch Hu poses really as challenge, if you will, to Klal Yisrael, to the Jewish people, then he promises repeatedly, "V'hashevota elavavecha b'chol hagoyim," you will return, and the parsha repeats the word several times. You will return. We're in a season, right? It's next week. Zrat Hashem is Rosh Hashanah, is a new year. We return. We do tshuva. So return to what? What do we return to? What does the HaKadosh Baruch Hu want us to return to? So I want to suggest to you that he wants us to return, as Caryn, I think, so often reminded me, and I think those around her, to return to our better selves. To return to each other. To forget about, all the silly things. Caryn was good at many things. One of her strong points was not math. It just wasn't. So over the years, I'm a big coffee drinker. And one of the things she would do for me was that she would often go downstairs, and we had like a little kiosk in the building, in the lobby, or when we were at another site, to the corner, and she would buy me a cup of coffee. So I would give her, money, she would bring me back a cup of coffee. There were times where I didn't have like the exact change, and so I would give her a $10 bill or a $20 bill. Even in those days, Starbucks was what, $3, $4, So when I gave her that $20 bill, I never knew how much change I would get back. I was really rolling the dice. Because she didn't know. Her reading was strong, her emotional intelligence was off the charts, but math, that wasn't it. I want to tell you that it had to be at least 15 years of almost every day that I was in the office, and often multiple times, 2 or 3 times during the day. This was before we had Keurig machines. And I would give her, money. I never got back the wrong change. That wasn't because of her math skills. That was because of her people skills. Because nobody, how could you give Caryn not the right amount of change? She wouldn't have known. But whoever was interacting with her, they would have known. And you just couldn't do that to Caryn. As you shouldn't do that to anybody. So, I think of many things today. I thought of, as I walked around the office and thought about coming out here tonight, dreaded the drive, but not being here. So we have other Yachad members who work in the office today. We have other Yachad members who are trained for other jobs, who train in our office so that we can then go out and find them jobs. 20 years ago, that didn't exist. Didn't exist. It exists today. It's still hard because we still have more education to do, because Caryn is not here with us to educate anymore in that sort of way. But much of the success, if not all of the success that we've had, and we've had much, is because of what Caryn did. Because of the light and the love that she brought to everybody that she encountered. And if you didn't know her, and I assume that most of you knew her. If you didn't know her, this might sound like, corny and melodrama, and, we often rewrite history. I'm not rewriting history. If anything, I'm underselling, not overselling. So I want to just conclude by telling you that I think that HaKadosh Baruch Hu, I think that Caryn had a very full life. HaKadosh Baruch Hu was very good to her. A full life. Some of it Lester referred to, a life with friends, job, meaning, a life filled with bracha. And maybe the best part of it was that she shared that bracha. She shared that blessing, all of the blessings from HaKadosh Baruch Hu with everybody else. And what better in life is there than doing that? And I'm certainly the better for having experienced it, as I think everybody who had the privilege of being with her at all. But I want to tell you that in a life that where I don't have many regrets, I do have one regret. And one of those few regrets is the fact that I didn't spend more time with Caryn, because I had the privilege virtually day in and day out of spending time with her. And I did spend time with her, but not nearly as much as I could have or should have. I had more to learn from her, more patience to acquire, more perspective to acquire, more appreciation for all the brachot, all the blessings that HaKadosh Baruch Hu gives us. And so my hope and my bracha to all of us is that we won't just remember Caryn, but that we will be inspired by who Caryn was and what she did, and that we will all live up to who she was and bring light and love and meaning through our interactions with each other into the world.